From the classrooms to the military, the woke agenda is risking unraveling some of the biggest institutions in our country. We are kicking off our Wokeness Unraveled series today with a look at the impact wokeness is having on medicine. Merriam-Webster defines woke as, quote, aware of and actively attentive to important facts and issues, especially issues of racial and social justice. But being woke has come to represent embracing leftist activism as well. In a recent blog post, journalist Barry Weiss wrote, "If any area is more urgent, it is the world of medicine, where the ability to speak truthfully is quite literally a matter of life and death. Without being able to discuss reality and take intellectual risks, it's impossible to get to the truth. No truth, no medical progress." In a blog post, journalist Katie Herzog speaks with doctors from around the country who told her a, quote, Soviet-style purge is underway in medicine where truth is being silenced in favor of anti-racist thinking. Our next guest knows all too well about the consequences of going against woke medicine. His op-ed for the Wall Street Journal, "Take 2 Aspirin and Call Me By My Pronouns," went viral back in 2019 for criticizing medical schools for focusing on social justice rather than treating illnesses. Dr. Stanley Goldfarb joins us now. Dr. Goldfarb is a kidney specialist and a professor of medicine at the University of Pennsylvania. Doctor, great to see you. Thanks for taking the time to be here with us. In your op-ed, you wrote, quote, "These educators focus on eliminating health disparities and ensuring that the next generation of physicians is well-equipped to deal with cultural diversity, which are worthwhile goals, but teaching these issues is coming at the expense of rigorous training in medical science. The prospect of this new politicized medical education should worry all Americans." And you know, we saw a lot of this during the pandemic. Politics, we know, played a big role in which treatments were promoted and which weren't. So talk to us about the impact wokeness is having on physician independence and American medicine long term.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity. This is a big problem. And I think if you want to focus on the best example of why this is a problem is the hesitancy that African American individuals have had to take the COVID-19 vaccine. And that hesitancy, I think in part results from this wave of institutions, medical institutions around the country, medical schools, large academic medical centers, all deciding after George Floyd's death to announce that they were all redeemably racist and need to purge themselves of their racist tendencies. And the fact that individuals, Black individuals, hear that and say, well, I'm not sure I should trust these people because it turns out they were really racist all along, I think there's been a major problem. And I think it's just the tip of the iceberg of the ways that this new initiative, if you will undermine American medicine. My particular interest was in how it's influenced the education of physicians. Some schools devote as much as 80 hours to a social justice curriculum. And I think social justice is an important thing. I'd like to see social justice be throughout our land, but not at the expense of the time that these young physicians need in order to learn how to care for sick patients. And the idea that we're going to teach physicians in training about things like poverty, poor living conditions, I think that's all fine, except they really can't do anything about that. What doctors do is treat sick people, and they aren't social workers. And inevitably, when one reads this literature, which is quite huge about medical disparities, there's never a solution that the doctors can provide in all this. It's always, I'm going to refer the patient to a social worker. That's the final outcome, and that's correct. So I just, in my concern about this is, as I said, is undermining trust in medicine, creating the idea that Black patients do better with Black doctors, which is totally without merit, that idea. And it ends up potentially leading to medical apartheid, which I think will be a disaster for this country. And you know, I was attacked brutally by the by the medical establishment after that op-ed came out. Mostly they didn't even read it because my concern was about the medical curriculum, not about the fact that there is social injustice, not the fact that Black people often live in poverty, not that they have had difficulties in the past with opportunity, but the idea that there's active racism in medicine is absurd. And I think one of the things that in Barry Weiss's piece was referred to was this terrible event with the Journal of the American Medical Association, where the editor ended up having to resign because one of the associate editors had a podcast in which they simply said, when you're talking about racism, what you're really talking about is poor social conditions. You're not talking about physicians who are actively discriminating against patients. And for that, the Twitter world blew up, and these individuals ended up having to lose their jobs. So that's my concern. My concern is for the health of the American people, for the health of Black patients. And I think these initiatives and these ideas are potentially quite dangerous.
All right. Well, we'll have
Doctor,
to
I'm out of time here, but I do want to ask you something really quick. You have about 20 seconds. What is the response of the medical students to this? Are they approving of this, or can they see the flaw in some of this curriculum?
I think you hear both sides. I have had students that said to me, thank God somebody actually said some of this, because I'm inundated with these ideas about social justice in my curriculum. So it's a split community about this, but unfortunately, the people that reject it are ones who fear for their careers, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear out there. Dr. Goldfarb, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate your insights.
Thanks very much.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.